all, or that are, those are, blah, blah, blah. Hey everybody, welcome to the For Knit Sakes channel. My name is Allison and I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas, where I live with my husband Jonathan, my two sons Levi and Oliver, and our fur baby Lucy, who is an 8-year-old Boston Terrier. If you would like to find me on Ravelry or Instagram, you can find me under For Knit Sakes, all one word with the number 4 not spelled out. It has been about 3 weeks, maybe 2.5 since I've seen you guys last. And we have moved, and I feel very awkward in my new space because I am in the loft, so there is no closet or door to close in order for me to tape kind of in a quiet area. So it's gonna be a little weird for me to get used to it. So sorry if everything is a little bit jumbled this week. We have been through a lot since we've moved out of our previous house, and I'm just now getting the time to sit down and chat with you guys about finished objects, works in progress, the knit along that is going on, and life in general. So let's start first with the knit along. It is a stash busting knit along that is going until July the 1st, and I am challenging all of you to knit solely from your stash. You cannot buy new yarn to knit with. You can, however, repurpose old yarn if you want to frog a project and re-knit it, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Or if you find something at the thrift store that you can rip apart and knit with, that counts as well. But you cannot buy brand new yarn from the internet or Joann or Michael's or anything like that. It has to be yarn from your stash. My queue is ready and raring to go with lots of projects that I have yarn prepared for, and I've also frogged a couple projects recently that I plan to reuse the yarn for something new. So we'll hop straight into finished objects. I'll try not to chit chat too long for today because I like to keep things short and simple, because sometimes a half an hour is all you have, but I have a lot to share today. So we'll start first with something that I finished recently, and I've been working on it for what feels like months, and that is the multi-directional scarf. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. I made it into a cowl. So let's find where I seamed it. And this is Mirasol Pakupura yarn. It's 100% alpaca. And I have a problem. It smells terrible. It's got like a metallic scent to it, and I've washed it twice, and I don't know what else to do about it except air it out and hope that it gets better. I don't know if anybody out there has some suggestions, but the actual yarn itself only has a faint smell to it. It's almost like a stack of copper pennies, and that's what it smells like. And it's not pleasant, and it's strong if you put it right next to your nose, and it's a little bit less faint as you're wearing it, but you can still smell it. So I'm very sad about that. Other than that, it turned out really nice. It's very long. I did 70 stitches, and it's just doing these triangles of short rows. So very plain and simple garter stitch. It was kind of my, if I needed something mindless to work on, this was it. So that's done and finished, and I had plenty of yarn left over to make a matching hat. And I'm glad I did something where the stripes were on the bias, because I'm not a fan of straight striping when it comes to anything other than socks. So I used the Sockhead Slouch Hat pattern, which is another free pattern on Ravelry, but I did 132 stitches on, 120 stitches on a size 2 needle for the ribbing, and then moved to a size 3 needle for the stockinette part of the hat. This took me about 2 days, whereas this took me, I feel like it took me like 3 months to make this one. So if anybody has any suggestions on how to get the smell out, it is quite sunny, as always, in El Paso. So I could just set it out in the sun. I have washed it twice in scented wool wash, and you can kind of smell the jasmine in it, but not really. And so I'm not really quite sure what to do. So I also tried putting it in a bag with a cotton pad with some essential oils on it, and then it just added to the smell. It didn't get rid of the smell. So help, I don't know what to do, because I would like to wear it when it gets cold again, because it's 75 degrees today in El Paso. I'm wearing my faded flax light because I am losing days on where I can wear the hand knits until it gets hot again, like 100 degrees hot. But if anybody could give me ideas, especially, I might end up gifting this because this was yarn I bought without a project in mind, and it might be something I might give away, but I can't give it away if it smells like this. So I've heard coffee grounds in a, if you put it in like a coffee filter and you tie it and you put that in there, it might get rid of the smell. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it smelled like coffee. Who doesn't love coffee? But I don't know what to do, but it smells, and I can't wear it like this, and I can't gift it like this. So I don't know. It's also very fuzzy. You can see the fuzz on there. So those are 2 finished objects that I have completed. My January socks are finished, and I did the speckled space socks with some Mothie and the Squid rainbow yarn. I think it's Indigo Skies Rainbow. And I only did the chart on the top, or the front part of the leg. I still haven't woven in the ends or blocked them. I've been waiting to show them to you guys. So there's a little bit better representation of the color of the yarn. I still have a lot of it left. I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do with it other than add a little bit into my scrappy blankets. I did my first Fish Lips Kiss heel, which I don't know why I was so scared to do it for so long, because it was really easy. And I really like not being able to see the wraps and turns in the heel like I usually have when I do my normal heels. And I did my first cabling without a cable needle because these are just 1/1 cables. And this pattern is also free on Ravelry. It's kind of a little bit of a, a theme today, all the free patterns. So these are the speckled space socks. And this yarn is by Mothie and the Squid. Now, she does not have any yarn in her shop right now that looks like this. I don't know if she still dyes any yarn like this, and if it's just a seasonal item, or if they're not coming back. I'm not really quite sure. I bought this in the summer of 2016, and if she doesn't have any more and she's not bringing any back, I know plenty of other shops that carry yarn that is dyed similar or in the same style as this, where the majority of the skein is all one color and then the rainbow is just done in small chunks in a very small part of the skein. I think the Lemonade shop has yarn like this, and I'm sure plenty of other shops have yarn dyed in a similar manner. But it was a really fun knit. I did make a mistake on this sock right here. If you look super duper closely, I didn't realize I did a twisted rib on my first sock. This was my second one. So I just started doing a regular 2x2 rib and then realized about 5 rows in that I didn't, and started doing a twisted rib. But that's not a mistake that I would rip out for. It's a design element, and nobody's going to be seeing that part of the sock anyways, because you wear socks when you're cold, and usually you're wearing pants when you're cold. So I would be the only one to see this. It's one of those things. If the mistake isn't worth ripping back, it's a design element, in my opinion at least. So both of them are finished. Ta-da! Get that on my face. And my next finished object, I started since I've seen you and I finished, and it was a mystery knit along with Lyrical Knits, who is Mary Annarella. And it was Till the Cowls Come Home mystery knit along, and there were 3 clues. And it was a very interesting knit. It's really interesting. This was my cast on edge here. And some of these yarns should look familiar. I have done a few objects, or really just one, I guess, in this red color right here. This is Dreamin' Jilly, and this dark navy blue was used in a brioche cowl for my husband, Jonathan. But this is one of the center spines that you work around, and then the other side has a spine as well. But it's really cool how everything is done. It was such a smart and fun way to do a cowl, and I like how when you wear it, the stripes aren't perfectly up and down. They're on the diagonal or on the bias. And it just changes depending on which part you have facing front. So I need to take better pictures of this. The other yarns, Fix My Hair, I used were, the brown is a Knit Picks Stroll, maybe the Basalt Heather or the Jackrabbit Heather. I'm not really sure. The two are very similar. This one has more of a reddish undertone, so whichever of those two on the website has a reddish undertone, that's the one I used. And then the green is some Kramer Stellina sock yarn that I got, and I'm going to use the rest in a pair of evergreen socks, which I have planned for my July socks. So this is a very fun knit. It was free if you signed up for her newsletter, kind of if the spine is on top and the bottom. It's just so fun how it looks so different all across the whole thing. It was a free pattern if you signed up for her newsletter. I think now it's a $5 pattern on Ravelry, but you should also check out a lot of her other patterns. They're really fun and just interesting. I want to knit one of the sweaters that has a really pretty lace detail on the bottom. The name escapes me at the moment, but if I remember, I'll put it down here. Any other notes you can find in the Ravelry group, just search for Knit's Sakes Podcast in the groups tab and you'll find it. Easy peasy. I just lost, there it is. Now this is another thing that I have cast on, and is a hoe. Instead of doing February socks, I decided to do February mitts because the mitts were the same stitch count as a pair of socks, and this was color work. These are the Wishmaker mitts by Erica Heuser, H-E-U-S-S-E-R, and I've gotten one of them done. I have, well, almost done. I still have to pick up the thumb stitches and knit 4 rows of ribbing with like less than 30 stitches. So I have done my first color work mitten. They look a little bit messy right now because I haven't blocked them. And my friend Lauren, the Wool Pickle, I've mentioned her many a times on the podcast. She says blocking makes all the difference for color work. Now these are also all superwash yarns. The blue-green main color is a Madeline Tosh sock yarn. It's the 100% Merino. I have the tag, Tosh sock. So, and it's in the colorway Envy, I believe. Yes. And then the blue is Knit Picks Stroll in, I think it's the Wonderland Heather colorway. And then the glittery blue is Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer. They don't sell any right now as far as I know, in the Fiji colorway, I think. So I'll put it on my hand to show you. This is my first major color work item I have ever knit. I did those socks. I need to take my ring off because it's gonna get stuck. I did a pair of color work socks, but it was just a few rows of color work. This is my first like full color work object. Now I'm hoping I can stretch this while blocking to cover more of my hand. If I can't, I'm going to rip out the bind off and knit more ribbing up here because I have long fingers, and this has happened in previous mittens that I have knit where the fingerless mittens don't come up very far. Now you don't want them up far enough that you're gonna mess up everyday life activities by having the fabric in the way, but I would like more of my whole palm isn't even covered right now. So I think I just have really long hands, and I've been told that my whole life. I should have been a piano player, guitar player. It works really well for playing the bassoon because you need really long fingers to reach the keys on that instrument. So I'm gonna finish the thumb and I'm gonna block the first mitt. I have started the second mitt, but I've only done the ribbing on the bottom and the first row. And I went down a needle size to start with because in the needle size suggested it was way too big. But as I got a little farther up the mitt, probably somewhere around here, I switched to the recommended needle size for doing the the dandelion part with all the little seeds and stuff that are flying in the air. But for my first go, I think it's turned out pretty well. This doesn't look so good because this is where my magic loop was so where the new row started, the split for the magic loop. But I think it turned out really well. I got some pointers from some of my friends who have done color work, like Lauren and my friend Polly. But I really like it. It's really cute. I did the dandelion mitts because the military child, like the official flower, which it's not really even a flower, it's a weed, is the dandelion, because we're moving so often and the kids have to be resilient and everything. So, I mean, you could Google like military child dandelion and you'll get more information than what I can give you right now. But if I end up really liking these, she has a hummingbird pattern that I might make for my mother-in-law. If I feel so inclined to do some more color work, I like it, but I don't think I want to color work all the things quite yet. So we'll see how I feel after the second mitt. The second mitt was really hard to start, but hopefully the next one will be done by the end of February, and then I can get back on my socks for my monthly sock patterns that I've picked out. So, and then like I said, I've started the second one, but all I have is this. But this Madeline Tosh yarn is really pretty. I don't know if I love it enough to buy it because I know how expensive Madeline Tosh is, but we'll see. Okay, my next finished object is another half finished object, another hoe. I just realized I have a pair of mittens I finished and they're downstairs, so I might have to pause and go get them. And these are just my sport weight on the go socks in some opal yarn I've had for years. I do have another pair of socks in this colorway already, but they were shorties, so I split what I had left in half and knit much taller socks. So I've marked every 10 rows with my very inexpensive stitch markers I've gotten from Amazon. They're actually supposed to be safety pins. And this was the first sock that I have done an afterthought heel, like true afterthought heel. I put in my needles and I cut my yarn. So it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. Putting in the needles was very easy. I did twist some stitches on this side here. You can kind of see right there. I twisted some stitches because I thought they looked wrong, so I started knitting through the back loop, but then realized they weren't, and I didn't want to go back and fix it. So, very exciting to do my first cut in afterthought heel, and I honestly think I'm going to start doing that more. Now, doing them toe up, I probably could have put them a little bit farther up, or the heel a little farther up. I should have maybe done 2 or 3 more rows, but I didn't. I was scared they would be too loose. I would rather socks be too tight than too loose because it's easy to fix something that is too tight. So on my next one, I think I'm just going to put the heel in the same spot, but I'm going to do a few more rows of just straight knitting around before I start doing my decreases. And that'll give me a little bit extra space that I think I'll need, those 2 to 3 rows. But I'm doing 48 stitches on a size US 2 needle, and they fit really well. And I just did a 5x1 rib for the body of the sock, and then a 3x1 rib for the cuff. And I did a really long cuff, and I actually still had yarn left over when I was finished. I was done knitting this. But another plain vanilla-esque sock. Still have to weave in the ends and wash them. So, but very exciting that those are done at least. And then I have started the second one, and these are, like I said, my on-the-go. They live in a small enough bag. This is Little Skein in the Big Wool bag that I got in the Fiber Share, or Fiber Swap Fiber Share. Now I don't remember. I didn't sign it up for it this round because this move really hit us hard financially. So we're still trying to recover from that. Thank goodness it's tax return time and we can beef up our savings again. So, and we still haven't gotten our security deposit back from the previous rental company, so enough about that later. So I've done the second sock, and I've done 10, 20, 30, 40. I've gotten to the 50th row, and I put my afterthought heel in on the 57th row. So I have a few rows to get before I'll mark both sides, which I'm going to do for the future. I'm going to mark both stitches on the back side, so then so it's easier for me to find out where I need to start picking up the stitches for the heel so I can cut it in. And that I think will really help out in the next time I do socks. The next time hopefully will be on fingering weight socks, so I'll have more stitches to pick up, and it's a little anxiety ridden just thinking about it, but I'm sure we'll do it. So there are those. I am going to be right back because I'm going to go grab some other mittens that I have finished. Be right back. I frogged a lot of projects. Well, not a lot. I frogged 3 things at the start of the new year so I could reuse the yarn for a project that I actually wanted to wear. And one of those objects, I don't even have a finished object photo on Ravelry, but I knit a hat out of this DK weight Noro yarn that I've had. My husband picked out this Noro yarn. I don't know what his, not obsession with, but he's picked it out 3 times since we've been like yarn shopping. The first one was when a shop was closing down in Holmberg and they were selling everything for like 50 to 70% off. And so we picked up a lot there, and we picked up 3 skeins of this Noro yarn. This is DK weight. And I didn't realize Noro yarn was this self-striping yarn, and I never used it before. It's very soft, but I don't think it's yarn that I will specifically go shopping for again. And I had 3 balls of it, so it's 150 grams of yarn. And so I knit this hat, and it turned out horribly. It was very square, very boxy, like not slouchy enough. So I wasn't wearing it, so I decided to rip it out, and I was going to knit these fingerless mitts. And I wear them every day to the bus stop. And I was talking to myself, as I usually do, about how I should rename my podcast The Bus Stop Knitter, because I'm always knitting just for things I wear to the bus stop, because it's only cold in the morning. And we had a few days of winter, maybe like 3. And so I don't get to wear the hand knits, even like lightweight fingering weight ones. I will probably be too warm to wear this by this afternoon. It's only what, 12:30 right now? But I knit these 2 mittens, and I still have 100+ grams left. I have the bag. I put everything in plastic bags. So I have all of this yarn left. Now my least favorite part of this yarn is this brown part down here. And so what I was going to do is I was going to take the rest of this and kind of sort of like a sockhead cowl, cast on stitches, and just knit a few inches of ribbing, a bunch of inches of stockinette, and then finish with a bunch of inches of ribbing again. So I was going to take the rest of this and just knit, 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 knit. But I was also thinking of cutting out any yarn that was like this color here. My husband doesn't like the pink. You couldn't see the pink in any of the balls that we bought. So when I knit the hat and I got to this color, his like face sank. And he usually doesn't care, but he doesn't like it with the green. He's worn pink shirts before. He owns pink and purple colors. We're not a family where pink and purple are only for girls and green and blue is only for boys, sort of thing. But he just didn't like this pink with the green. So I'm probably going to end up wearing these anyways. But these mitts were in Clara Park's book, it's up here, The Knitter's Book of Yarn, and they were just some plain ribbed mittens, and they were very easy. And I knit these on Addy Flexi Flips. My friend Helene let me borrow them, and I don't like them. I thought that they were going to be really cool and revolutionary. She had them in larger sizes, so she let me borrow 4 of them, US 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I knit 1 on the Flexi Flips, and I knit 1 magic loop. And I don't think these are for me. They're not revolutionary enough that I feel like I need to go out and buy some. Especially for $24 a set. I can buy 2 fixed circular ChowGoo needles for the same price. So I thought I might like them for socks, but they're not for me. And I talked about this on the last podcast before we moved. they're not it. I was always looking for the sharp end, so I was wasting a few seconds just making sure I was knitting with the sharp end, and I don't have time for that. I am all about efficient knitting, and these, I don't feel that these are very efficient. If you like double pointed needles but you feel like you want a little bit more give in them, maybe they're for you, but they are not for me. Those are all of my finished objects. Spit that one out. Now, the only other work in progress I have, I've already showed you the sport weight sock and the second Wishmaker mitt that I have started, is the Knitting Guild in El Paso is doing a mystery knit along, and we had homework before our meeting this weekend, and it was just to start. I'm assuming this is going to be a scarf. We get 2 more clues, and I am knitting this with some Fibra Natura Lima yarn. It's a DK weight 100% merino yarn. Now that I'm looking at it, I think I messed something up on the bottom. I'm looking, maybe? No, I guess not. The back side just looked a little funny. You see what I'm talking about right here? Where I have these pearls right here? But it looks fine. This is the right side and everything looks fine. That cast on edge. So it's supposed to include cables because we're going to be learning cables on Saturday. And it has this I-cord edging on both sides. That's all I can tell you about it right now because I have no clue what pattern it is or what we're going to be doing on Saturday, but it's just going to involve cables. So I have these on straights because I didn't want to use my good needles for a project I might not even like to begin with. But I actually really like these clover straights because they're a lot more lightweight than my metal straights that I received from my grandmother. So I don't hate it. I also still don't love straights, but I don't hate this yet. And that's just being held in a project bag that I made myself. It's a little dirty. I've tried to get some spots out that are on this side for a while, and I did this little strip here, and the inside fabric matches the flowers. Ta-da! So that's all I'm working on right now, and the only other thing I have started to swatch for is the Palette Cardigan by Lisa K. Ross. So all I've done is started the swatch. I haven't even finished the swatch. But, sorry I keep bending over out of frame. I don't have a table in here. I'll figure something out to work in this room. But I'm using the same yarn that I ripped out of a sweater my husband owned that we got from the thrift store. And it was too big for him. It was a Gap 100% wool zip up sweater, like just a half zip up though, or quarter zip up. So I am splitting the yarn because I don't have enough for a full sweater. So I have about 250 grams of this color yarn and this like brown tweed color. And then I have about 250 grams of this Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in Delft Heather. And I think I've talked about this before. If not, or if I have, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I'm going to do the top half of the sweater in this brown and then gradually fade to the blue in the bottom half of the sweater. I'm not going to do even stripes, so I'm going to gradually switch from the brown to the blue, and then hopefully, if I've done my math right, I can do the button band in blue as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a risk because I have pretty much exactly the amount that I need for the sweater. And if I don't plan the stripes out properly, then I'm going to run out of this before I'm done. So I might do the gradual switch to the blue and then do the sleeves before I'm finished with the body, just so I have enough for the sleeves, and then knit the body as long as I need to. Or if anybody else has any other suggestions that might work better, let me know, because I don't want to run out of yarn. But I was trying to figure out my next project to cast on, and it was difficult to decide because, like I said before, it's 70 something degrees. It's gonna drop to 65 tomorrow, but it's still not really cold enough to wear a lot of hand knits. And so I was having problems trying to pick a project because anything I would knit basically would be unwearable until October or November. So it's hard to get motivated when you can't wear what you finish, but I figured a cardigan would be really good because it's still chilly in the mornings. It's still in the 30s to low 40s when we walk to the bus stop. And it's a 5-minute walk to the bus stop now. It's not across the street like it was at our previous residence. So we have to wear warmer things, and the inside of the house here actually stays pretty cool. Now, granted, it's not summer yet. We'll see what happens when it's 100-something degrees or the day starts out at 80 degrees. But I figured a cardigan would be a good next project to work on because I could still wear it as long as it doesn't take me, 2 months to finish it, which it might. So I'm gonna swatch because since I've used this yarn before, I took the measurements from my son's cardigan. I took my son's measurements from his cardigan that I finished, but his used a size US 8 needle and these need a US 6. So I'm just swatching again just to see if I need to maybe be an in-between needle size. It's also another sweater pattern where my bust size is in between the two measurements. So the medium is a 39-inch bust and the large is a 43-inch bust. It's supposed to fit with 0 to 2 inches of positive ease, but I don't want a baggy sweater. So we'll see. I'll check my gauge after I knit a couple more rounds. And then I probably should swatch this one just to make sure I don't need to change needle sizes, because this is the non-superwash wool of the Andes. But I don't know. I might just risk it and go for it. I know all of you that love swatching out there are yelling at the camera or yelling at the screen saying, no, don't do it. But we'll see. So I'm working on the swatch for that. And then I forgot to show you my cross stitch work in progress. I am working on my BB-8, and I did order a Q-snap frame from Amazon. And I think I've shown my needle minders. I don't know if I had gotten these yet, but BB-8's getting there. My boys keep saying, you're almost done, you're almost done. And I keep saying, no, I'm not even close. But I just work, I pull whatever color I'm interested in working on, and I stitch until I run out of that piece of thread, and then I either keep going with the same section or I pick a new color. I'm a little all over the place where I'll work on the head one day and then maybe work on the body. I'm not really quite sure if I'm doing that right, because you can still see there's a bunch of white spaces. Like that's where the black needs to go here. But I figured the smaller patches I would do last, so I don't have chunks of yarn stretched from here to here, because these are each only like 4 blocks each. So I'm just doing this on some plain 14 count Aida thread, Aida cloth. You would think it was Monday, but nope, it's Wednesday. Sorry. And I'm doing it on, you can tell because this is white. This is the off-white kind of ivory color. So I figured it would look pretty nice. I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to frame it. I've been watching the Real Housewives cross stitch, Chelsea and Priscilla, and they like to use the sticky board, but I've seen a lot of interweb tutorials that say you should not. So I can't afford to frame every single piece that I cross stitch, so I need to think of cheaper ways to do it. Our thrift store is kind of lacking in the frame department, so I'm not really quite sure what I'm gonna do. I like the idea of the sticky board just to make sure it's nice and secure. You don't have to worry about the thread showing in the background. It's already acid free, so I don't have to worry about the layer of acid free paper in between. So I guess I need to do a little bit more research, but this one's not even close to being done, so I have plenty of time to figure it out. And then when this one is done, I have a really pretty watercolor flamingo that I'm going to do for my mother-in-law for her birthday / Mother's Day, because her birthday and Mother's Day are in the same month. So I need to get going on finishing this because I want to be able to use the snap frame on hers as well. I don't enjoy stitching with just the fabric in my hand. I like having something to hold on to. And I put this like really thin piece of felt in between just so it wouldn't be directly on the top and the bottom. The sides I didn't care because those weren't going to show whenever I put it in a frame or not. So that's all my works in progress and finished objects for you guys. So we are going to now talk about reusing yarn and yarn that has been gifted to me. I talked about how I frogged a few things in the last month or so, and one I already showed you was that Noro self-striping yarn, and I'd finished this object last year, but I wasn't wearing it because I didn't like the way it fit. But you probably would notice if you go back and look, around this time last year is when I finished this linen violets cowl in this, do you call this ribbon yarn or tape yarn? Sorry, my nose is running. From Lang Yarns, Amelia. So it's this very wide yarn. I'm not quite sure how wide that is, but I still have this whole ball that I haven't finished. So, but I wasn't wearing it, so I ripped it out, and now I have the buttons left over from this cowl that I finished. And I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm in a cowl making mood. I talked about this on the last podcast where I have about 6 cowls saved in my queue. And for this yarn, I think I'm going to pick a lacy yarn pattern from my 750 Knitting Stitches dictionary and just knit a cowl, like a nice big thick cowl, because it's very soft yarn. It is cotton and polyamide, so cotton and polyester or nylon. And it's really pretty yarn. It reminds me kind of like the koi fish ponds and like mermaids with the blues and the aquas and the pink. So I had plans for that, but I ripped it all out. It was kind of sad and satisfying all at the same time, and I put it in another Ziploc bag. And then I also had this scarf I knit like a year and a half ago. It was just a plain garter stitch scarf that I made for my son, but it was too short and too wide. So really only maybe a 2 or 3 year old could wear it, and then it would just be too short to really do anything except drape across your neck. So now I have some, I think there's some Cascade acrylic Aran weight yarn I'll do something with. I have some grass green of this same exact yarn. It's sitting in my Project Linus box with all that yarn because it's acrylic. Although I don't find this to be anywhere near as similar as Red Heart. Not even close. Even though it's 100% acrylic, it is much softer. And it's not quite as thick. Like Red Heart is a solid Aran weight yarn. This is maybe like a good worsted weight, maybe even a DK, just because it's a lot thinner and a lot softer than Red Heart. So I ripped out all those things, and then I went to the thrift store because as we were moving, we were finding things that we didn't need, as you do when you move. We had about 3 trunk loads full of stuff, and I was dropping things off. I didn't have the kids with me, so I said, let me go in. Sometimes you can find some good things. And I was walking around and I found two crafty items. And one was a Christmas cross stitch that was drastically marked down, and a nice big thick cowl. I posted about it on my Instagram, so if you go back to end of January, you'll see pictures of this. But I found this Christmas cross stitch, like very small, like a 4x6. And you know, the person's initials are still there. Somebody spent a lot of time and effort to make this. And it was originally marked $4.50, which is still very inexpensive. But since it was after Christmas, the thrift store marks items down the longer that they sit there, and it was down to 45 cents. And it was in a frame. Like, I have to throw the frame away because the frame is, I don't know if I can save this. You can see it's super, I might try like a polishing cloth to see maybe if I can get it to be shiny again. If not, these frames don't cost a whole lot. I can buy one, Target, Walmart, whatever. And then this cowl, it still has the tag on it. I haven't even taken the tag off. Now, I started to rip it out, but then I rethought I need to show it on the podcast before I frog it. But I mean, this cowl is ridiculous. Let's show how big it is. I'm pretty sure this is Lion Brand homespun, or no, so Lion Brand Woolies. And I'm pretty sure it's either the Woolies Thick and Quick or just plain Woolies, but like, look how ridiculous this is. Somebody either must have moved here from a very, very cold climate and didn't need it anymore, or somebody was gifted it, and it's El Paso. It's not that cold here. But the yarn is held tripled. 3 strands of yarn all together. So there might be a sweater's quantity worth of yarn in here, and it was originally marked $3, but since it had been sitting there since mid-November, the longer it sits, the more it's marked down. It was marked down to 30 cents. So between this and that cross stitch, I paid 81 cents with tax and everything included. This is a lot of yarn. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I can't wear it the way it is. It's way too big. It's not my style. But it just says tan knit wrap on it. So no, yeah, it was originally marked $3. And after the 24th of November, which was the day after Thanksgiving, 30 cents. It looks like it was dropped off around the 10th of November. But man, look at this. As soon as I rip it out and I weigh everything, I'm gonna figure out how much yardage I have. I might have enough to make another bulky Ease by Alicia Plummer. I don't know, but this doesn't count as far as my yarn bin or yarn diet goes because it's already a pre-made object. And I made that rule for myself last year that I could buy things from the thrift store and rip them apart, which I did. Last year I found an extra large men's cotton sweater for like $3 or something like that. So I don't know what this is gonna be, but it's a lot of yarn and I'm gonna tear it out and it's gonna be fabulous. Okay, so I also have some very kind friends in my life that have gifted me a lot of yarn. And one of them is a member of my knitting guild. Her name's Helene, and she's the one that lent me the Addy Flexi Flips to try out. And she also gifted me a sweater's quantity of worsted weight yarn. This yarn is from, it says Potluck Worsted, but I don't know where it's from. Oh, Cherry Tree Hill yarn. So it's all bare yarn, so it hasn't been dyed, but she gave me like 9 skeins of this. It's equaling out like 1,800 yards of wool. So I don't know if I'm gonna dye it or not. There is a dyer up in Las Cruces. Is this a knot? No, it's just an end. Huh, I was gonna be really upset. Not really, but there is a yarn dyer up in Las Cruces. It's Quill and Fiber Art. She is on Etsy. The yarn shop is closing, but I don't know if maybe she would like to, I don't know, have like a yarn dyeing class. And because I don't really want to knit a whole sweater just out of this color. If I could dye it like a pretty aqua color, or I have enough coral in my life and pink, or blue. I don't want to do purple because I have all that purple yarn to make my pavement. I don't know. I need to think about it. I'm not going to need to knit a sweater out of worsted weight yarn for a while, but I have 9 skeins of this stuff just sitting here. And she also included 4 balls of this yarn. I have never seen it before. Jadifra? Sadifra? That would be a G, right? Or is it just the pin that's going through it? I don't know. Fila Rosa Summer. 100 grams is 175 meters, and it is polyamide, bomb wool, cotton, polyacrylic, and then 2% polyester. But it's all this, I don't know if it self-stripes or not, but there's this black and then this squiggly white tan part, but then if you pull out a little bit, you have this gray and white. I haven't looked it up on Ravelry, so I don't know if it self-stripes or not, but I have 4 balls of it now, and I don't know what to do with it. So the suggested needle size is a 5. You would need 400 grams for a sweater. I don't know what to do with it. This would be good yarn for my mom because she doesn't like wool if I knit for my family anymore other than my sister. Shh, we won't talk about that. And then she also gave me a ball of Regia wool cotton, just plain navy. It's in my bin in front of me, so I'm not going to get it out. And then Carrie from the Creative Obsession, I love her so much. She sent me some sport weight yarn and a skein of yarn for the knit along for a price. So it was, I could have like cried tears of joy when she sent me that message, and she was like, hey, I have some yarn, would you like it? And I was like, I'll never say no to yarn, and I'm having such a terrible day. Of course I'll take it. And so she sent me 3 skeins of some sport weight hawthorn. Sorry about the crinkles. Everything stays in bags because I'm terrified of moths. After we had all that water damage, I don't take any risk with natural disasters or anything like that. And she even reskeined them. They were in cakes, and she reskeined them to send them to me. So I have these 3 really pretty skeins of sport weight Knit Picks hawthorn, which I didn't know hawthorn came in sport weight. Learn something new every day. Cue the more you know rainbow, but it's so pretty. I might have one of these skeins be a giveaway depending on how many people participate in the knit along. We'll see how many prizes we have. I still plan on making a like a medium-sized project bag to go with it, but so far in the knit along thread I think we have 4 or 5 finished objects, so people are getting out there and they're finishing up things because whips are allowed, and using up their stashes, which is, you know, awesome. I feel like as soon as I knit a whole bunch from my stash, I go a little bananas and I buy a little bit more. Or I have super sweet people that send me stuff like this. Like I said, Carrie, if you're watching, I think I cried that day. And I told Carrie why, and I'll talk about that. It was stuff with the previous house and our previous rental company. I'm tearing up a little bit just thinking about it. And I'll share this beautiful skein that she sent. Here's her card. She sent, it's got a little cute little note on the back. I won't share that, but she sent this beautiful stellina. Let me see. That's probably pretty good color representation. So it's got this really pretty creamy base and this beautiful like burgundy, some lavender, there's some blue in there, little speckles of orange, and this is called Stardust. So it's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% gold stellina. And it's that stellina that doesn't stick out of the yarn, so it's like you can kind of catch it. Just, I don't know why I'm whispering. It's just so pretty. So thank you again, Carrie. I really appreciate it. And Helene, if you watch this, thank you so much for the stuff you gave me too. I don't take these donations or offers, I don't take them for granted because I really do appreciate it, because especially after this move, I couldn't imagine spending money on something as superfluous as yarn or needles, and it's just, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank people enough these days. So between stuff that was gifted and things that I already have, I have a lot to knit and a lot to work on. So I hope you guys are getting out there and knitting your stashes and using what you have. And if you just came here for the crafty portion of the podcast, you're more than welcome to go on about your business, about your day, and do the things that you love to do. And I hope you guys keep your needles moving. If you want to stick around to hear about a little bit about the drama of moving out of our previous house, feel free to stick around. Bye. Okay. So moving out of the previous house, it was going great and fine and dandy. We waved the white flag and decided to hire a moving company to move our washer and dryer, because alone without the stands, I think the washer is well over 200 pounds, and John has a bad back. I was having shoulder problems. We're not 20-something anymore. We need other people to do those things. So we hired a company to move the washer and dryer. When we move the washer and dryer, we find a mess of water damage on the baseboards. And so we do the right thing and we send pictures to the rental company and say, hey, we just moved our washer and dryer. Our washer's never leaked. We haven't had any issues, minus, you know, the leak that we reported in July. We think that there's another leak somewhere, or this could have been caused by the leak in July, like water just settled over here. Because the water damage was behind the dryer, not the washer. And we send pictures and everything. You know, we're supposed to have the walkthrough a week from the day that we moved the washer dryer. And they respond with, this is your fault. Your responsibility to fix it. It's going to come out of your security deposit. My husband gets on the phone and describes the situation, and basically we're saying, how can you make this decision from your desk on the opposite side of town without sending somebody to look at it? we're really disappointed that this would happen, blah, blah, blah. They're like, okay, well, somebody will be sent out after your walkthrough to look at it to determine whether it's your fault or not. Not quite the answer we're looking for, but we don't have time to argue. We don't have the money or we didn't have the resources to get a like JAG involved, which is like the lawyers on post. Plus they were busy anyways. So we like do the whole walkthrough. The people that do the walkthrough are very unprofessional and, or at least in our opinion, were very unprofessional. We don't they were kind of like rushing us to leave. They didn't point anything out except for the damage that we had found the week before and the closet where the damage happened in July, which, you know, had been fixed, but the carpet was a completely different color and the baseboards were never fixed. They were just painted over. And the people that did the walkthrough had zero knowledge of what had happened at our house over the summer. And so they were like, oh, well, why is this here? And then when we leave, it looked like they were doing a second inspection without us being there. And we find out that's just normal things that this rental company does. And this is the first time we've rented houses for 10 plus years, 10 years being married, and we've lived in 7 different houses in those 10 years. And we have never ever had a rental company or a landlord go through a house a second time without the tenants to mark down like discrepancy or like damages and stuff. So we still haven't heard anything. My husband messaged them a week ago because it's been 2 weeks since that walkthrough. And we're like, hey, we haven't heard anything. You said you were going to send us pictures and a list of things that were noted. And their response was, well, the homeowner's really happy with the condition of the house that you left it in. You should be getting your security. We're waiting on them to release your security deposit. So it's been a whole nother week and we still haven't heard anything. They have 30 days to give it back to us. And I don't know. We went into the walkthrough basically just expecting the worst and that we weren't going to get any of our deposit back, which has almost never happened. It's only happened once, and it's because we made the decision to not shampoo the carpets because we were only going to get charged like $75 for them to do it themselves. We were like, okay, that's fine. We'll do that. That's not an issue. And so other than that, we've always gotten our full security deposit back. In the 7 places we've rented from, 6 of them have been full security deposits. So I guess in the 10 years we've been renting, it was bound to happen to have a bad experience with a rental company. It doesn't suck any less, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We're just waiting on whatever portion we get back to get back. So the new house is great. There's kind of a funky smell that we keep getting every once in a while. We don't know where it is. This carpet's kind of old, so we put baking soda and stuff down, and that kind of helped. But we're all settled. Everything else is fine. We don't have neighbors on either side. One house. I'm trying to meet new moms at the bus stop, but everybody drives their kids to the bus stop, so I haven't gotten to meet anybody, unfortunately. So that's a little sad. But we do have friends that are around the corner, but she homeschools, so their kids don't ride the bus, obviously. I'm saying a lot. I'm sorry. And this is probably getting really long. This segment has been 33 minutes so far. I'll try to wrap it up really soon. And then the kids are fine. We've all been healthy, like knock on wood. Sorry, I just shook the thing by knocking on wood. And my husband was nominated to be Soldier of the Year, so we had to put in a packet for that, and he'll hear about that sometime in April. And then he is applying for some jobs at the School of Music, which is in Norfolk, Virginia, which is close to where both of our families are. But he told me we could be moving as soon as August, like 6 months from now. So we just moved into a brand new house, and if he gets one of these jobs that he's applying for, we might have to move in 6 months. But the Army would move us, but I'm not looking forward to driving across the country because Texas alone would take us a day to get across. So Janice, if you're watching, I hope you have some space for us. We're going to stop by. My friend Janice lives on the east side of Texas. And other than that, we're just one day at a time trying to smile. And The nice thing about this side of the neighborhood is we're close to a park within walking distance, so the kids can grab their ride-along toys and we can ride to the park and I can knit and they can have fun. Now, it won't be very useful in the summer because it's not covered, because the winds get so bad here during the spring season that they would just blow away or they would get damaged. So I can understand they're not going to put the money into putting those things up if they're just going to blow away, basically. And just one day at a time, watching shows. This Is Us. Has anybody watched all those? Who else is obsessively checking all of their smoke detectors all the time? And other little things like that. I'm paranoid to begin with, but now even more paranoid after watching that show. So we still have to get settled. Like, my yarn wall behind me is completely empty. So, well, minus the pins that I have on it. And then now I have, these are some project bags that I hang using the shower curtain rods to keep them, their books and stuff up here. You guys can't see. So hopefully I'll get a little bit more settled and a little bit better space behind me. But other than that, we're doing great. So thank you so much for coming. I think I'm gonna cut it now. I've been chit-chatting long enough. So I hope it won't be 2.5 weeks before the next time. I'll probably do it around my birthday, which is in 2 weeks from today. Hooray! I'll be 32. I just asked my husband for fancy chocolates and a good meal for dinner. Maybe some pho. We're big pho fans, and it's like a treat for us to eat out there. But I'll let you guys go. Hopefully I'll see you guys in about 2 weeks around my birthday. And like and subscribe. Send your friends over. I'm really close to 100 subscribers. It's been around for a year. My podiversary was January 17th, and I was kind of hoping to be at 100 by then, but it's okay. I like my small group. And don't forget to join the Ravelry group and the Stash Bust Knit Along, 4KS Stash Bust KAL. So I'll see you guys soon. Sorry about all the awkwardness of today. Hopefully I'll get used to it again. So love you guys. Bye.